Oh, Penn State. That's all you hear about in wrestling is Penn State this and Penn State that. Do you see who Nittany Lion brought in? I wonder who Penn State will bring in next year. Is Penn State in the transfer portal? Is Penn State doing this? Is Penn State doing that? Penn State, Penn State, Penn State, Penn State, Penn State, Penn State, Penn State! Sorry, I think I got a little carried away there. But I think we can all agree Sanderson's staff over the past decade plus has truly built something remarkable in State College. For people who weren't alive during the Gable era, I think it's almost very similar to what happened there in Iowa City, but now we have it in Penn State. I really wanted to get this video out last week, but I was waiting for the Olympic trials then to see some of the newcomers compete, along with so much more since they had so many people from Nittany Lion competing in front of the home crowd during freestyle. However, before we jump into all that and you listen to me ramble for a few minutes, welcome back everyone to TrueTan Wrestling. If you are new here, be sure to hit that subscribe button along with leaving a comment on your thoughts on the Penn State wrestling team for next season. I'm super excited to talk about this topic because I don't think every weight is as straightforward as everyone thinks. But for now, let's sit down and relax and ramble about the way too early Penn State wrestling lineup preview. Like I alluded to in a past video, I don't really think Braden Davis is a done deal at 125. For starters, I think he is very good, but also extremely big at the weight in my opinion. In my past video, I also brought up Luke Lillidahl not only being my pick to start for Penn State next year, but my way too early pick to win it all in March. Which after the Olympic trials, I'm not really too sure about it, I'm not really too against it, but I think I'm sticking with my guns. Don't get me wrong, he did really good to be honest. Beat a lot of tough wrestlers like Cronin, who was a former Ohio All-American for Nebraska. I just think his situation will be similar to the 125 situation for Penn State this past year. If he's the guy, he won't know until like after Christmas. And for now, I think I'm one of the few people that think this is even a possibility unless Davis is for sure bumping up to 133, which on that note. So yes, there's a lot, or not even a lot, a few rumors that Braden Davis is going to be bumping up to 133 next year and is a little too big for 125, but I'll believe that when I see it. They clearly still have Nagao there for a few more years, with both Davis and Nagao making the round of 12 this year, but failing to place in the long run. Of course, me speculating that Luke Lillidahl can win a national title as a true freshman and Davis bumping up is all speculation and could stay in the rumor mill for, well, ever, but that's what we do way too early previews. Now with all that said, I really don't have much else to say about 133 because these opening two weights could either be really simple or really exciting basically all season next year, especially since Mason Gibson appears to be decommitting from the school. So besides these rumors, there really isn't much else to discuss. Before Bo Bartlett announced his return, Tyler Kasich, the third place finisher at 149 this past year, was more than likely going to be the guy here. He also took Bo Bartlett to overtime this past season, so yeah, more than likely going to be the Nittany Lion at 141. However, Bartlett decided since he had one more year, he might as well use it, and here we are. The returning NCAA finalist and probable favorite to place top 3 at 141 next season is back and looking to capture the only thing he hasn't yet, and that's an individual national title. The only wrestlers staying in his way are the returning national champions, I guess, Jesse Mendez of Ohio State and Andrew Lira's of Northern Colorado, both of which doing better than him at the Olympic trials and both of which already having a national title under their name. Lira has actually beat Bartlett at those Olympic trials along with beating him at NCAAs back in 2023. So Bo will for sure have an uphill battle this next season, but you can never count them out at good old Penn State. I think next year, 149 will be the Shane Van Ness show, and we'll all be a part of it. I'm fairly confident he would have been the NCAA champ this past season if he didn't suffer a season-ending knee injury. However, Tyler Kasich is still around, but luckily for Penn State and staff, they can still redshirt him for a development year, especially since Bartlett will be gone after this next year as well. Van Ness, on the other hand, has dealt with a lot of injuries for most of his career and even a little bit during his high school career. He had a very limited redshirt season, and the events of this last year also happened. I think he is an easy pick to roll with to be a national champ and to be the Nittany Lions starter, but he has to stay healthy as well. Lucky for Penn State, they have a nice backup who just went on a mission on the backside of NCAAs to place third, so they'll be in a good spot no matter who the starter is at 149 between Van Ness or Kasich. For those who watched my way too early prediction for the NCAA champs for 2025, you all know this is where it gets super interesting for Penn State. For starters, since the start of his career, people thought Levi Haynes was going to bump up to a 165. However, that brings up a variety of issues. For one, Penn State last season brought in now NCAA runner-up Mitchell Messenbrink, and I think 165 is his ideal weight class now. I could really see him maybe going down to 157, but at the same time, I think he's outgrown that plan as well. The only other problem is if Levi Haynes does bump up to 165 and him and Mitchell Messenbrink figure it out, who does Penn State have at 157? At this point, I think they would have grabbed someone from the transfer portal if they really thought this was an issue. But even if that wasn't the case, they really have no great options to fill in here. Unless, and this is a big unless, maybe Shane Van Ness is going 157, Levi Haynes 165, and Mitchell Messenbrink 174. I think that's a lot more of a long shot than just Levi Haynes staying at 157 and everything staying the norm, but we'll just have to wait and see, I guess. Obviously, Mitchell Messenbrink is the clear pick to win 165 next year, especially since I believe Keegan O'Toole is bumping up to 174. Clearly, if Levi Haynes says sayonara to 157 and is bumping up to 165, then this weight class within the room gets super interesting. However, there is still a lot of other options under these two that make this weight super deep from just a pure roster perspective. I can't forget to mention Alex Facundo, who just beat Levi Haynes at the Olympic trials. I know that is freestyle, but it is clear to note Facundo wasn't an Olympic redshirt last year and was a pretty high seed during his NCAA run, even though he didn't do all that great at NCAAs the one time he's competed at it. But I'm sure he'll be there battling with either Messenbrink, Levi Haynes, or maybe even someone else at this weight class. I think the depth at 174 is super interesting, especially if Karastaraki does not return for Penn State. Or heck, I heard he might come back and go 197, which would be absolutely wild and make a lot of sense if he wants to be an 86 kilogram guy. However, what I was saying was the depth at 165 and a little of 174 is really helping fill a hole of the four-time national champ Karastaraki departing. There's Terrell Bearclaw, who's been a backup guy for the past couple years at Penn State and has really jumped levels for them, along with Matt Lee, who has some interesting freestyle wins under his name as well. There's also Joe Seeley coming in, but he might be a little too small for 174 right out of the gate. With the log jam that could form at 157/165, one of those studs could obviously bulk up, and that might be the mission for him to go 174. Or heck, right now after the Olympic trials, maybe Levi Haynes wants to go up to 174, but who really knows who's in the weight room right now. To be honest, I really have no idea who their 174 is going to be. Even if Karastaraki comes back, I don't think this is the weight he's going to go. I truly think he's going to go 197. Overall, though, 174 is a weight I'm really excited for. I think when Penn State has projected holes, per se, coming into a season, they either provide something really awesome that turns into something really great at NCAAs, or they just don't. So I'm kind of excited to see what it's at, and maybe some teams can capitalize on it. Out of all the wild speculations we can make about Penn State's options at 125/133 and 157/165, along with the 174 situation, I think 184 is pretty straightforward, and I'm pretty excited about it because it's the start of a new class at Penn State with Josh Barr coming out of redshirt. Josh Barr was behind transfer Bernie Truax this past year, and he was developing in redshirt. He was one of the top recruits in his class, making it to the finals of top tournaments like Fargo, and he was also at Who's Number One, where he did battle with Rocco Welsh several times, who, as we all saw, was a runner-up for Ohio State as a true freshman. He went 14-0, competing in a couple opens last season. There's also Zach Ryder coming in, who also had some redshirt depth, plus another possible 184 or maybe even another 174 option down there. 197 is, well, like every weight class, as I'm slowly realizing this while writing, is super interesting. Karastaraki might dang well be the starter here. In my opinion, I don't really know if he's coming back. I know he said he's like 60-40. I think it would be really sick to see him win his 5th title up at 197, where I would argue he might be the favorite coming into the preseason rankings. However, if his time is truly done at Penn State, I think they have to roll with Connor Mirasola, who I was super impressed with at the Olympic trials. I think he could really be a player in the field very early, early, maybe even take some weird losses early on in the season, but then really peak at the right time and win it all, to be honest, in March. I might want to pump the brakes a little on myself, but if I'm picking Luke Littledahl to win 125, I can pick Connor Mirasol to win 197. I mean, I think we can all see it based on the comments of my way too early predictions video. We also can't forget Ironman Lucas Cochran, who won several fun matches in the lineup last year. I could see him honestly being anywhere from 174 all the way up to heavyweight, so we'll just have to wait and see where he fills in, I guess. I think at the end of the day, Greg Kirkfleet is coming back for Penn State. He hasn't come out and said anything publicly yet, but I think he's going to come back to Penn State to at least try to win another title for him. They will have Cole Mirasol as well, who honestly might be their best and only option if Kirkfleet doesn't come back. I'm sure some will emerge if they don't have a really great option, but at the end of the day, they're still going to win it all with just one hole in their lineup. No one is going to even touch them next year. They will once again be just an unreal team. Yes, so they're losing some four-timers and national champions, but they're still pretty solid of a team, and that's kind of undercutting them. Especially with the transfer portal being a little light this year compared to years in the past, I don't know who's really going to catch them. The only teams that kind of come to mind are Ohio State, who is pretty young this year and is going to have a pretty similar team with a lot of development behind them, or potentially Iowa, who had some really good red shirts last year. So at the end of the day, I think we can all agree Penn State's going to be pretty dominant next year and probably for years to come, like they've been for the past decade plus. However, if you like this way too early style video, please let me know in the comment section below. For long-time loyal watchers, you all know I like to do a bunch of these throughout the summer, so let me know if there's any teams you'd like me to cover. If I miss someone that could be in the Penn State lineup next year, please also let me know in the comment section below. Also, while you're down there, feel free to hit that like button if you enjoyed the video, and of course, don't forget to hit that subscribe button. Now, with all that said, everybody, I hope you all have a great day, and take care, everybody.